You're listening to the Never Heard of It podcast,
a Night Shift Radio original. Every week we bring you the good,
the bad,
the weird,
and lesser-known streaming movies.
Hit subscribe for new episodes every Thursday and Sunday. Welcome, everyone. We are back again. We're covering episode 2 of the Secret Invasion series, the brand new Marvel series on Disney+. Just as a heads up, before you get too far into this episode, we will be spoiling all of episode 2 of the series, and we will be talking all about the spoilers from episode 1 as well. So if you have not watched it yet, look, man, it's been like 2 weeks. What are you doing with your life? Like let's go. Jump on it.
Make better choices.
I say we can't help you if you continue to make these terrible choices.
That's right.
Yeah, this is on you. But yeah, so pause, hit subscribe, both on YouTube and your podcast player of choice. Come back and then, come back and watch this episode. For those of you listening, and if you're like, oh, on YouTube, I'd rather go there, you can hit us up at youtube.com/@NightShiftMG. And you do the @NightShiftMG in that URL, and that'll bring you right to our YouTube channel where we post brand new episodes every Thursday, which is this time they're on Monday for Secret Invasion. But on Thursdays, we post just kind of what's new in the world, what we're watching, and that kind of stuff. So you can catch up with us every Thursday that way, but every Monday for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah. We're changing it up on you.
As we like to do, keep it fresh. And then you probably heard that other voice, but just like we had last week, we have one of the Super Pod HeroCast guys on with us. We're super excited to bring back Mr. Todd Panic.
Hey,
how are you doing, sir?
Thank you, my friends. Happy to be here again. I had such a blast when we did She-Hulk. So when you guys extended the offer for Secret Invasion, of course I'm in.
Yes,
you had to come in.
I love this.
Yes.
Because, Michael and I, we want to talk about the new hip things, but it just feels wrong to talk about anything comic related without you guys. It really does.
True.
It feels dirty.
Thank you.
Right. It's like cheating a little bit, right? You're like, I don't want the wife to know.
Yeah. Listen, we have an emotional relationship. I think we just need to acknowledge that.
Yeah, so. It's true. It is what it is. Yeah. So here we are. We're going to talk about episode 2. Now, episode 1 left off with a very big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So episode 1 left off with the death times a million of Maria Hill. Who did not turn into a Skrull at the beginning of this episode,
right?
That we know
of. I mean, that was kind of the thing we were waiting for. So Todd, you weren't here for the first part of last week. So how did you feel about Maria Hill dying?
My news feed. So I'm not sure if I've talked about this on your show before. Casey and I are both incredibly paranoid about spoilers. We've been burned in the past. It annoys me, and I'm fine with content that spoils. I think you need to do what you all did, which is put the disclaimer up front, tell everybody, and then you can make an informed choice. There's nothing I hate more than a spoiler in the title of an article or in the featured image.
Yes.
So I saw an article pop up in my news feed, but before I could even click away, the title had spoiled it, and it was Colby Smulders talking about leaving Marvel, leaving the MCU. I'm like, well, I guess that just tells me something. So I was not specifically keyed in on was she a Skrull, although it's a fair question. But I think I'm just generally paranoid now. In the show, everyone's a Skrull, right? Yeah. My assumption is everyone's a Skrull until they die and don't transform.
Oh my God. So Michael had asked me literally right before you joined, Todd, he's like, what do you think of Maria Hill's quote unquote death? And I was like, well, I'm trying not to form any concrete opinions literally until the end, because the whole point of this show is that you can't trust anything you see until you're told otherwise. And that's the thing. That's the whole plot. So when I saw that, I don't want to believe it's real, but also I'm not an expert in this era of the comics, but I know that there was a long period of time where Maria Hill was top dog at S.H.I.E.L.D., where she was super fucking important. And I knew that name at a time when I wasn't really reading Marvel comics at all. She was that big of a deal. And coming into the MCU, and what an underutilized character she's been, I really hoped that seeing her in this show was going to mean that we're going to see there's going to be a changing of the guard at Shield. Like this is kind of Fury's last big hurrah, maybe, and like Maria's going to take over for real now. And then they kill her in episode 1, and I was like, well, that sounds like what Feige had intended, honestly, because like it like obviously didn't really care that much about this character. Like she felt like an afterthought the whole time. Like it was at most fan service that she existed at all. And so like if they're saying that she's out of the MCU, like that's not a shocker to me.
I think you're spot on there. I think you're spot on. I think and then if you layer in, forget the storytelling in the cinematic universe, if you layer in the real world of Colby Smulders is an actress, that's her profession, that's how she supports herself. You know, she's had some more prominent roles in various properties, but the MCU is expanding and fragmenting, like going in all these different directions. At some point, the performers have to be like, what is it worth to stay committed that if they call, I need to be available for these things. So I get it. I mean,
yeah,
if Maria Hill is dead and the death means something, regardless of whether or not she's a Skrull, because she's clearly, you know, Fury's protege. I think I feel like we got a flavor of, well, Fury has had proteges, and clearly Gravik, I think, is filling that role, and the whole like the student betraying the ideals of the master, or did the master betray the student? But you know, stories have to have stakes to mean something, and Maria Hill's death means something if she stays dead, which is not a guarantee in the comics. So, you know, in the comic universe, right? No one's dead. It used to be Uncle Ben and Bucky were the only two people that everyone else comes back.
They're really allowed to die.
Yeah, and of course now, you know, Uncle Ben came back and Bucky's come back, and
I mean, even Jason Todd came back.
That's right. That's right.
But like, I'm drawing a blank. Michael, you had a very important point about this.
Well, I was going to talk about, you know, the idea that Maria Hill dying. I have two things about this. So one, I think it's really interesting, and I know it's like an immediate after fact, but he doesn't seem too beat up about it. Fury doesn't seem too beat up about Fury dying, or about Maria Hill dying. I expected some sort of angry response, like we're gonna get these suckers now that they're, you know, they took something from me. Like he has his moment of, you know, kind of tucking his tail when he's with Maria's mom. But after that, he's sort of like, anyways, business as usual. And I was like, that's weird.
Yes.
Which kind of made me feel like maybe she's not actually dead and he knows that.
But
like, it was weird.
He did body side as well, though. Like he was pulled away. And I think that's all we get. I think the overall tone of this series, boy, this is not the light fun that Ms. Marvel was, right? Like this is a bleak, I mean, it's clearly a, you know, spy noir, right? It's bleak, it's depressing. Layer in, you know, I think the resident old person in the podcast here, like as a you know, Fury's also facing this idea: is he past his prime? Is he up to this challenge?
Yeah.
And as the people die around him, it's sharpening the impact of that, or the ramifications of that question. So, I mean, I chalk that up to, in his career, sadly, Hill is just the latest one of his friends to die.
It's just another one gone.
Right? I mean, you kind of, like, if they recast for a split second Danny Glover as Fury, he's getting too old for this shit, right?
Too old for this shit.
Right? I mean...
Right.
Michael, I think you nailed exactly what I, like, brain blanked on, was that, like, it just felt so, like, okay, she's dead, move on. And, like, it didn't have the hard-hitting impact that you would expect from a character like Maria Hill dying. And it's really hard at this point to trust whether that was, like, as Todd mentioned, maybe another misdirect, or you know, Michael, I think you were hinting at that too. Like, maybe she's not really dead, or maybe the writers just didn't care, or it's just Fury, like, recognizing, like, this is part of the game. I've got to stay focused, and I'll grieve my friend later. Like, and I wouldn't be shocked if we got a moment like that, where, like, he finally has a chance to stop and just breaks down, like now I finally have to, like, face that, like, I lost one of my closest allies and closest friends. We don't know yet.
Yeah. Now, Todd, you were starting to talk a little bit about Gravik.
Yeah.
And this was actually something that I predicted in our episode 1 episode where I was like,
It's true.
I was like, as soon as I saw Gravik, I was like, got it. He's gonna be, we're gonna see Gravik as a kid. Nick is gonna take him under his wing. He's gonna grow up and then feel disenfranchised because he still hasn't found him a thing. He's gonna this is all the story.
You were supposed to right? Like
it's literally that.
The chosen one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean so I was like, this is the plot we're gonna get, and this episode kicked that off, basically proving that that plot. So the first thing we see is Gravik as a young child coming to Nick Fury with Nick Fury's wife. That was a big mystery at the end of the episode.
There was a little breadcrumb. I think it was in episode 1 because I watched them. We were down in New Orleans, little vacation trip. Saw Amanda Palmer, the Dresden Dolls,
Yes.
which was incredible. But so I didn't see episode. I was traveling for episode 1, and then I had to wait and saw 1 and 2 together. So I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, but there was a line dropped. Somebody asking, it wasn't Talos. Was it Hill maybe asking Fury if he was, why he was doing this? Was he doing this for somebody else? And I was like, that's a line that means something.
Yeah.
I thought there was this whole 3-way triangle. I thought maybe Fury was in love with Talos's wife. And then I thought we were going to see, is Gaia half human? Was she actually love child? So I had this whole mental theory. That's not it. The end of episode 2, when we see Fury's wife, I will admit, did not see that coming at all. Full surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, both on the fact that he has a wife and the fact that she is a Skrull. Both of those things were surprising to me. I mean, we always kind of had the little bit of hint that, I said it last episode and I said it before, but he's Nick Fury. Even his secrets have secrets.
Yes.
So it's been very implied. And in Captain Marvel, she even says what about your wife and kids? Don't have those. What would they call you? Fury, and she does call him Fury.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's A+ continuity right there.
Yeah. It does. I think it does really cement, because I also had a split second in that flashback where we see Talos introducing Fury to the Skrulls and Fury basically enlisting them. There was a minute where Talos spoke of Fury almost like he was almost like a culture hero, right?
Yeah.
Really elevated. I was like, boy, I mean, I was thinking back to Captain Marvel. I was like, yeah, I get it, but boy, feels like they've really pushed that. But if you accept the fact that not only has Fury welcomed them and actively worked on their behalf and has a relationship with one of them, I think it makes that transition make a little bit more sense, right? Oh yeah, he truly is accepted by this group of Skrulls.
Yeah, he feels very integrated.
Yeah. Which then was such a great shift, and I love the scene Talos and Fury when Talos tells him how many Skrulls are on Earth, which
God,
the betrayal. Right? This is, I mean, I think we have this overarching issue with the MCU. And I've said this certainly on our podcast, but the MCU is now looking more like Marvel Comics, right? Where you have a Doctor Strange comic where he goes off into the dark dimension and he's fighting, Dormammu, and you have the Avengers and they're out fighting the Kree Skrull Wars, and Iron Man and Luke Cage are fighting a street gang in Harlem, and all of those coexist. I think some people watching the movies and Disney Plus shows are upset by this fragmentation.
Yeah.
I'm just accepting not everything interconnects. I was surprised at the tone of this series. The first 2 episodes, this is not a superhero show, right? It's definitely an MCU show, but if you go into this expecting a superhero show, you're going to be surprised. But again, all the angles they're exploring on this story, really interesting. And if you're like, I want this kind of dark noir spy thriller, great. If you liked Winter Soldier, we're going to go even further in that direction.
And I think the universe kind of had to reach that fragmentation point because you can only carry one singular thread for so long. And so far, I think Feige's done a pretty good job of it, regardless of what you might think of individual installments. And the fact that you can have a strong opinion about one individual film and still keep watching the rest speaks to the strength of that. But I particularly loved that scene. And while I don't know that I agreed with Fury's reaction, I think it was absolutely right, because you have these different schools of thought in sci-fi. You either have humanity's alone in the universe, and we do space travel, and maybe we get to the moon or Mars. Maybe we conquer the whole galaxy, a la Asimov. You have humanity exists alongside other species, spreads out into the universe, and is either like arguably like in charge, like a Star Wars type situation, or a like well respected but still like in conflict species, like in Star Trek, where like you meet so many alien races and like there's still like an odd degree of deference paid to humanity.
Just the marketplace of civilizations. Yep.
Yeah. And then you have stories like this that recognize that like humans are nowhere near either of those potential futures. And when the universe finds its way to us, we're probably not going to react well to that. So when Talos tells him like you were gone, and even when you came back, you weren't here. So what was I supposed to do? You promised us a home. I found us one here on Earth. I invited everybody here. We're already here, Fury. You were scared of an invasion. It's already happened. Like, there's over 1 million of us. And Fury's like, we can't get along with ourselves. There's not room for another species here. He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's very interesting about this too, because I'm feeling very conflicted about the idea of it, and at the moment I'm very biased against Fury, and Carol Danvers to a way, because Talos is right. Like, Gravik is right. Right at this point, Gravik is right. He had 30 years, and he spent 10 years of it fighting with the Avengers. But what was he doing for the first 10 years? And then the last 10 years, he was blipped out up on a space station. So, like, what you wasted 20 years, outside, like, look, we'll give you the 10 years of the Avengers, right? We'll give you that. Like, obviously, big things were happening, world-threatening things were happening. But you had 20 years on the front and back end of this. And, Carol disappeared. Carol never came back she came back once that we know of, and does something on Earth. But, like, that was it. Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm kind of with Gravik at the moment. Like, they need to win me over to Fury's side, because at the moment I'm not. I don't understand why it took 30 years.
Like, Gravik and to an extent Talos also kind of proved that, like, while like the idea was to find like a new Skrullus, essentially, like to find a new planet, they proved that like whether humanity's ready for it or not, like, it works to just put them here on Earth, because there are places they can occupy that we can't. Fixing my fuck up from last week, where I forgot that they were immune to radiation, with the whole plot of them living on a defunct nuclear power plant. Like, there's plenty of that. Like, there's plenty of places that we can't really occupy that they probably could. And like, let's say that you even like, whether they put the best minds at S.H.I.E.L.D. on it, or like they tap some Wakandan tech or something like that, you could create a protected world where this whole refugee civilization can exist until we're ready.
The reality is, so 1 million people on Earth, honestly, is not pressing our limits. And I've actually read. So I go back and forth between optimism and cynicism, right? I see a show like 19 and Counting with the Duggars, which, if you haven't watched that new docuseries on it,
Pass.
It's even worse than my initial reaction was when it came out. Oh my God. Yeah. But I see something like that. I'm like, if every family had 19 children, we would, Malthus would be right. Like, we would, starve ourselves off the planet. I've also read that with technology, with GMO crops, which are not, automatically evil. Like, our planet can support, more than the people we have here today. 1 million Skrulls on Earth is not the problem. The problem is, and I hate to say this, but it's the central concept of The Walking Dead, right? The monsters are us. We are the monsters. And, I'm wearing, if you're on YouTube, you'll see
I love it.
my Rainbow Marvel shirt, but, coming out of the end of June and the incredibly depressing activist Supreme Court we have, we'll, we don't need an external threat. We're fully capable of cannibalizing and destroying ourselves. And I mean, again, fits with the bleak tone of this series, but boy, this one is not the feel-good, lighthearted romp that some other MCU ones have been. Yeah.
And that's why I say, I don't necessarily agree with Fury, but I still think he's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's, it's the Tommy Lee Jones from Men in Black. Why don't we just tell people? He's like, well, a person is smart. A person can rationalize and understand. He's like, the people are big, dumb, panicky beasts, and that. That's literally what it is. You can tell one person, hey, there's 1 million Skrulls here, and let me talk you through it. They've been here for 30 years. You would never know the difference, and you can rationalize with them. But when a whole population of people, sees a Skrull die on live TV, which is bound to happen in this series,
it has to. There's so many bodies that just get left around.
It's going to happen. It's 100% going to happen. Yeah.
That, you're going to get a bunch of panicky people or like that. But the thing we have to remember is these people already know aliens exist.
Yeah, it's true.
Because of New York, and Thanos. So they already know that aliens exist in this world. This is not a new concept to them. The problem that's going to catch them is that they've been here for 30 years.
And there's a million of them.
There's 1 million of them, and they can be anyone.
Yeah. Well, and they've also they've been exposed to the idea that aliens exist, but that exposure essentially proved our most primal fear that they exist and they're hostile.
Yes.
Right. Worst case scenario.
Thanos, Earth's exposure to aliens in the MCU is damaging.
Whereas, ironically, if just play this out for a second. If in the Captain Marvel in the 90s, when the Skrulls arrive, if we have this revelation and we see them as refugees who need help and we can assist and it unites the globe, right? But the decision, and it kind of goes back with this thread with Fury, right? That secrets have consequences. I feel like Cap really kind of leans in on that. If different choices had been made, if our first contact with aliens had been, they are imperiled, and we as a humanity, as a planet, not as a nation, but as a planet, can help them, this intelligent race, and we can work together and learn from them. Your introduction would have been, we're not alone, and look at the good we can do, right? Of course, that didn't happen. So to your point, the first existence of aliens is the battle for New York. Yeah. Yep. Bree, you just said, I'm sorry, Michael, the people are, a person is smart, people are dumb. Yeah. That idea, shout out to the grandmaster of science fiction, Robert Heinlein, in Methuselah's Children. There's this whole fictional social science that is basically group psychology or group sociology. And it's exactly that point, right? The existence of long-lived people among us. And it explores that exact same concept. One-on-one people can be rational and understand things and work through things. But you put, the law of large number, you put people together and it's like we instantly go down to our lowest common denominator, right? Our basest instincts.
I might be inserting a false memory, but I feel like he also toys with that notion in Starship Troopers too, because there's a lot of interesting sociological stuff bandied about there that I feel like he touches on the idea of the problem of the masses.
Yeah, I mean, spin-off podcast. I'd be happy to argue why Starship Troopers is not fascist, despite.
Thank you.
It is.
We did that. We actually covered.
Come
that.
On, seriously.
We covered Starship
of the
Troopers.
Movie? Well, the movie is a horror show, but the book is phenomenal.
How dare you? The movie is one of the greatest of the 20th century, and I'll hear no.
Listen, just name it Bug Troopers, and I'm there for it. Don't name it Starship Troopers.
I think it's a terrible adaptation of the film. I think it's a fantastic movie for
Fair.
entirely different reasons than
Fair.
the book was fantastic. And I think Verhoeven had his read on it, and he went his direction, and it made sense for what he was trying to do. But it gave people the wrong impression of what Heinlein was trying to tell, which was like I think more appropriately bastardized and like watered down for people in Ender's Game than it was in Starship Troopers the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Mic drop. I have been waiting for this
I know
moment.
we're going a far afield, but this is, I mean, like this is what happens when you get into this realm, right? Like you talk about, they relate. They relate.
It's all
So
connected, man.
I want to digress a little bit because I had an idea when we were talking about like the aliens and stuff like that. Is Thor an alien?
Technically, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Is he?
Yes, because he's not a god. I mean, that's made very, very clear, right? They are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Arthur C. Clarke, any technology in sufficient amounts is
Sufficiently advanced
indistinguishable
technology, yeah.
from magic, right? So, yeah, the Asgardians are aliens far afield. And Thor even says it, right? Like our science, you call it magic.
You'd call it magic, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah, Asgardians are aliens, 100%.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which you almost go down this route until the Doctor Strange movie shows up in the MCU, in which you could very easily say there's no such thing as magic. It's all just science that we don't necessarily understand yet. I mean, you could even make the argument that back to the Robert Heinlein, one of my favorite books of his, I feel like is goes under the radar a lot, is Glory Road. And it takes the same kind of tack. Like it's a fantasy adventure, but it's like fantasy is just a way of describing magic or technology that we don't understand. And he presents it very clearly that way. So, sorry. But yes, Thor's an alien was the short
Thor's an
answer.
alien? Thor 4 kind of says otherwise because he goes to the realm of gods and all that sort of thing.
Oh,
but,
fair.
But I
Or
think,
are they just more aliens?
are they just more aliens?
That's
right.
the whole idea. I mean, like, I feel like it almost drifts into like giving validity to the ancient aliens nutters. But like the whole idea, like these were aliens and like interacted with humans who didn't understand them and began to worship them as God. And we see that as a fairly common theme across sci-fi. I mean, even the Star Trek franchise has touched on that. I mean, that literally happened in, it was Into Dark, I think, the one where they start off on the planet with the people who see them take off in the starship because they're trying to save them from the volcano.
Yeah.
They begin crafting a religion around this starship that they saw. And there's other instances that
isn't that like the whole idea behind the Prime Directive? Is that
basically, yeah,
like just being exposed to these other people can F them up, right? I don't remember. Is this an R-rated podcast? I don't remember. What
Oh, fuck yeah.
No, it is.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it'll fuck them up, right, dude? Come on.
Yeah.
But back to Secret
definitely.
Invasion.
Yes.
Well, so speaking of technology, we learned that Gravik is building some pretty far-fetched technology using Kree. We learned last episode he's using Kree technology to basically capture the minds of people so that when they shift into the person, they know all of the things that they know.
Yeah. Which is a
episode,
departure from everything that I remember in the comics, which could be an era that I missed, but I thought that was a really interesting, like, let's update this. How would this work? And it really, it makes it all much more insidious, right?
It's a little bit fucked up that like they spent so much time fleeing from persecution and oppression and genocide from the Kree, only to turn around and use some of their like kind of nastier technology against humans. And like, I think we're definitely being set up for a like, look what you've become, Gravik sort of scenario.
Sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, so Gravik, and this answers my question or all of our questions from last week, too, which was how are they going to do Super Skrulls without the Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
And now we know.
I wondered, like, while I was watching the episode, I'm like, are we actually going to is Gravik going to become the Super Skrull? Are we going to get Super Skrull before Fantastic Four and it'll just be...
Well, he does. We see it in the trailer. For the show, we do see Gravik stretch out his arm and do the thing.
I did not. I did not see that trailer. Okay.
Yep, that's in one of the trailers.
Got
So, and that is not Mr. Reed Richards. It is in fact Groot is where he's getting that ability from, which we see on the computer screen.
Yes, that
the
was
four
really
powers
smart.
he's stealing.
I did not.
We're getting.
I did not understand that. That
I
makes
didn't
perfect
process
sense.
that either. I processed that like the name made sense. Like was like okay, this is important. Somehow Groot's involved, but I didn't recognize why.
Oh, that's so smart.
So the 4 samples is how we're going to get the Super Skrull. We're going to get Groot for the stretchy.
Yep.
We're going to get the Frost Beast, which is going to be, I would assume, the catch of Invisible Woman. Instead, it's going to be ice.
Okay.
I would assume. We have Cull Obsidian, who is going to be our strength. That's going to be Thing. Yep, the big strength part of it. And then we have Extremis, which is going to be the healing and the fire.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, listen, if this is Secret Invasion going to be the stealth way to get the Fantastic Four into the MCU?
I got so excited about that, I literally threw my pen. That's
if you're watching this on YouTube, you saw it.
That's what I. So that's literally what I.
So that has been confirmed. No, the showrunners did go on record saying there is no Fantastic Four in Secret Invasion.
But again.
But that could be. Does this like that's a very specific answer?
Them, but like, yeah, that feels like another misdirect for a show that's all about misdirects.
But even if the Fantastic Four aren't in the show, that statement is true. But it also doesn't mean that it's not set up. Like it doesn't lead to Fantastic Four. I mean, I think we know Feige plays the long game. So
true.
I mean, I would not be surprised if we've already seen breadcrumbs and did not recognize them for what they were.
He plays the long game so much that he did a whole defunct S.H.I.E.L.D. series just so he could kill Maria Hill in the first episode of this.
Right. Which she wasn't even in at all. But speaking of Fantastic Four, there is the most recent news is that Adam Driver is out as Reed Richards.
I heard he priced
Matt
himself.
Smith is in.
What?
Matt Smith as Reed Richards.
He's one of the doctors, right? He's the from the Crown.
He was, he's also,
Oh, I love him so much. I love him.
I could see it. But it'd be very interesting. But
he's
Adam
a fine
Driver priced
actor.
himself out supposedly.
He's not like, Reed Richards.
It's not who I would have picked, but I am excited to see it because I love him so much.
That's where I meant, this is not a like, oh my God, he would be a great Reed Richards. It's like he's really great. I would want to see him as Reed Richards.
Yes, agree. No spoiler, but if folks are in the Syracuse area at the end of July and they come to our live nerd debate event this year at Bullfinch Brew Pub on Saturday, July 29th at 7:30 p.m. Bullfinch Brew. Yeah,
I can't do it.
Bullfinch Brew Pub on Saturday, July 29th at 7:30 p.m. There might be a question about the Fantastic Four in the MCU, so I have thoughts, but I can't respond here because I can't reveal my strategy to the other contestants because I'm going to destroy them this year. And I will finally take my crown as the rightful champion of Nerd Debate.
That's right. Shit, the gauntlet is down.
So if you can't make it live, that episode will go up over on the Super Pod HeroCast feed.
Yep.
So if you are here from the Super Pod HeroCast feed, hi, welcome.
Yeah. Hi.
But if you're here on the Nahoit feed, make sure you subscribe to the SuperPod HeroCast. If you haven't already, we've talked about them extensively for the past almost 5 years now. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to them. They're on their summer break, but new episodes are still coming out this summer as they release episodes from behind their Patreon paywall, which is going to be pretty exciting.
And I just edited today first time ever we did a double feature for a summer bonus. So that'll come out in a couple weeks here. So you can hear that before Nerd Debate and then come down and join us for Nerd Debate. It's going to be funny.
It's going to be super fun.
Yeah, we'll be yelling at each other. It'll be good.
I'll be there. It's going to be great. Yeah. So this is what we learned. We learned in a torture scene, which again, if you were to remove the aspect that everybody's a Skrull and just say that they're a spy instead. This is no different than any spy show on Netflix. All of the Jack Ryans, the diplomats, the night agents, all of those shows. It's all kind of falling into place like a very typical spy show. Not that that's a detriment to this. It's great. It's cool because it's Marvel, but this is a very standard fare spy show right now. Who's secretly the spy? So we see who, I only thought twice about, I barely thought twice about in episode 1, but episode 2, she really steps up to the plate. But we got Fallsworth coming in and, just love her coming into that thing. Yeah, Todd.
So I every once in a while my wife laughs at me. She and I watched this yesterday and I blurted out, "Oh my God, Fallsworth." So Fallsworth is the family of Union Jack, who's an old-time Marvel hero, fought alongside Cap in the Invaders era, right? Like literally World War II. Yeah. And is also a character, not the female, but the Fallsworth family is also a character in the greatest 2-arc Captain America story ever. I think it's, I'm going to get it wrong. It might be 276, 277. It's Captain America versus Baron Blood. John Byrne wrote and drew it. Go check it out. But when he said Fallsworth, I freaked out because, it probably means nothing. It's dropping a name, but the beauty of it is I don't know. Maybe it's going to mean something. I don't know. Give me Union Jack.
Maybe down the road.
Yeah,
yeah. We got 2 new Captain America movies, and Chris Hemsworth is rumored to come back in Deadpool 3. Which is pretty interesting.
Oh, I have not
Chris
heard
Hemsworth,
that one.
Owen Wilson, Loki, they're all supposed to be coming in Deadpool 3 because it's going to be a TVA storyline. The TVA go after Deadpool for all the time traveling he did in Deadpool 2.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. He deserves it.
And Wanda is supposedly in it as well, which is going to be crazy interesting if that comes true.
Sorry, it's Cap 254 is one of them. I think 255 is the next, but that's here.
Honestly, weren't that far off.
I wasn't that far off.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. So Fallsworth comes in. One of the Skrull terrorists is captured. Fallsworth come in and this is an amazing scene. Everything written about this scene is just flawless. She opens the door and he's like, "How did you get in? The door was locked." And she goes, "Well, now you've learned something about me indoors." And then she's like, "Where is he?" And he's like, "Who are you? That's above your pay grade. Where is he?"
Yeah.
And he just motions to the back. And that's just great. Beautiful scene. Shows it was a great way to really introduce the depth of her character, which we did not get in episode 1. We definitely got that she is powerful enough to be a smartass. She's definitely have the power to mouth off.
Yeah.
Yes, that she can mouth off to Fury and be like, "Fight me over it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I won't."
Played by the wonderful Olivia Colman, by the way.
Oh, who's just beautiful in this role, absolutely perfect. But this whole scene where she gets the information out of the Skrull agent, which is where we learn that Dalton is the doctor that is gathering the samples to create a Super Skrull, which we don't know that exactly yet. But we can put that information together based on the trailer and what we know of the Skrulls. But that scene, masterful, just incredibly well written. Really excited to see her more in the show if she gets more scenes like that. But is she a Skrull?
My thought was that she was. That was, yes. Which again, right? That's what we should be paranoid. That this show is about paranoia. Yeah. I 100% thought she was until she snipped his finger and she's like, "Well, that confirms it," right?
Yeah.
But then I didn't know. But then she asked about the rabbit hole going in. So did she know that someone would be coming and she needed to make sure she had a escape? Again,
she's someone that has all the contingencies planned for ahead of time. She covers her bases.
Her secrets have secrets.
Yeah. She doesn't leave things to chance. And I loved that. Just that casual remark, where's the escape hatch just in case? And then the guy's like, what do you why would you just leave me alone.
Just a feeling. Yeah.
She says just a hunch.
Just a hunch.
Yeah.
Which is great.
She's absolutely right. And of course, the moment she hears the gunfire, she's like, "That's my cue." And just bucks off.
Yep.
And
I got what I needed, right? And wasn't even upset. Nope, I'm good. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's really, she's a great addition.
What about Khaleesi as Gaia? Like,
She's doing great. I mean, she was not in a lot of this episode,
Sure.
But we're already starting to see the doubt play on her face. You know, when she's leaving the scene of the bombing, she's kind of like, "Oh shit! Like this is a big deal. Like this is more than I signed on for." You know, we see her secretly looking at. You know, she follows. That's how we learn about the super serum,
Yep.
or the secret DNA samples. And she's the one who finds the 4 samples that they've collected so far, but he was looking for a 5th because he even says, like, did you find the sample? And he's like, no, every time he sent me to find this specific sample, I can't find it, you know, so like, I don't know. So we don't know what the 5th potential sample is and if they ever even find one, but apparently there's 5 of them. So
Interesting.
so what would be the, so is it Cap? Is it the super
Cap? Is it
soldier
Hulk?
serum? Is it Hulk? Is it Captain Marvel? Like the power cosmic? What do you,
I was saying
mean-
the power cosmic, maybe?
yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that the Skrull are already super strong. They've made a point to say that and show that in the series so far. So Captain America may not be the one, right? Hulk maybe, but they've already got Call Obsidian. So like, I'm not sure.
And Hulk, you know, this is definitely I think we've seen I feel like we've seen over the course of the MCU that this Hulk is the Ultimate's Hulk, right? Like Banner's
It's
work
from the
was
super serum. Yep.
super soldier, right? Which again, if you view it as, it's not about making strong, but about enhancing everything you already have, then it is potentially valuable, right?
It
Like,
could be that. Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, 'cause
there's also a case to suspect that they might be interested in Carol Danvers because the Skrulls do know about Carol Danvers.
Sure. And she's the most, the Kree's paragon of warrior, right? Like they're mortal enemies. Yeah.
Yeah. Could be interesting.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts on this episode. What did you guys think of this episode? How do you think the show's going?
I think
Todd?
Rhodey was a dick.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even talk about Rhodey. We got to talk about Rhodey real quick.
The speculation, of course, is that Rhodey is a Skrull.
Rhodey's a Skrull.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost too obvious. If not, it's kind of like, what happened to you, dude? Like, because he's acts completely different than he has in every other movie.
Yeah.
You know, Rhodey's always been like a, hey man, toe the company line, you know, kind of guy. But like, this was different.
But I mean, there is precedent for how he acted in the Iron Man trilogy. Like, he turned on Tony real fast. And he turns on Cap in the Civil War.
Civil War,
like, there's
that's true.
precedent, but like this takes it even further, where he's just like, he seems to delight in being a dick, rather than just like, I'm doing my duty and like you should too. He's like, nah, this was fun for me. I chose this.
Yeah.
No, nothing to. I think you're spot on, Bree. I 100% agree. I mean, if Rhodey's a company man, and the company is the United States of America. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always been the case. You know, of course, we got the classic, spy line from Fury. You know, he's like, "You're out," and he's like, "You know, I'm Nick Fury. Even when I'm out, I'm in." I love that. Great line. You know,
I was
very
like,
Nick Fury line.
I actually thought it was also a little bit Shaft, which another role that Samuel Jackson has played. I was like, that's also a little bit of a Shaft line there, right?
Which we talked a little bit about last week, the Sam Jacksonification of the role of Nick Fury, and how I personally think that there was no other way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the outfit that he wears to that meeting with Rhodey is very Sam Jackson and not Nick Fury.
Yes.
You know, like Nick Fury's like black t-shirt, leather jacket, and he shows up in this very suave ass suit. And I was like, that is Sam Jackson coming to play. That is
Literal
not Nick
Sunday
Fury.
best.
That's the man who got a purple lightsaber when purple lightsabers don't exist.
Yes.
Don't exist. Right. 100%. Yeah, that's 100% what it was. Great. Yeah. So, very excited for episode 3. Predictions. Anyone got any predictions for what we're going to see throughout the series? Any surprises, you think?
The question has been, it's out there, and I think it's subtle in places, but I 100% expect it's going to come back into focus. This question of, is this the end of Nick Fury? Is he too old? And it arguably, I mean, Sam Jackson's in his 70s, if I remember correctly.
I think he's almost 80.
Yeah, he's up there.
So, I mean, is this a, meta thinking, is this a pathway for Samuel Jackson out of the MCU? I don't know, but I know I'm going to be, on the edge of my seat until the end of the series.
Yeah, I mean, we know we get him at least once more in the Marvels.
Sure,
but we also don't know if the Marvels is before or after this scenario.
Or contemporaneous,
yeah, so we are unsure yet. So we'll see whether it takes place before or after the Marvels. But yeah, no, I think you're right. This might be the way to write out Nick Fury.
I would love to make predictions about this series, but with 4 episodes to go and show that we started out the episode talking about like the whole idea is to misdirect, to make you not know what to expect or to make you believe something and then pull the rug out from under you. I honestly don't think that we're going to have a complete picture of what happens in this series until the final like post-credit scene has rolled. I think that like there is an opportunity for something to fuck with us right up until that moment. And until then, like I can think all I want, but like anything could change at any point. So no, at this point I don't.
Yeah, I don't think this, as much as they said it's a self-contained show, there's no way that it is, right? Like there's no way that the show ends and then they're like, well, that was that. And then they go on to the Marvels and none the wiser.
Yeah.
Like I think there's going to be something so consequential that will, and they have said that, Secret Invasion, although is kind of like a one-off story, will have implications in the larger Marvel world. I think it's going to have larger implications outside of it just being like, who's a Skrull? I think that's like the minor part of it. I think there is a bigger ramification that we're going to see at the end of the series that is going to be much, much bigger to the MCU as a whole. I don't just think it's like a surprise these bunch of people were Skrulls. That's not going to be the case.
Yeah. Bare minimum, I think Fury's fear comes true and humanity finds out about
the million aliens
in general.
Yeah.
And like there's consequences there. I think that's bare minimum we deal with the consequences.
I mean, that's like episode 5.
Yeah.
Like someone's going to out themselves on TV and that's that. Yeah. One way or another, whether it's a dead body or if somebody goes up there, like, we learned that all of these heads of state are secretly Skrulls.
Yep.
One of them is going to dehumanize. They're going to Skrullify, and that's going to be it. It's going to throw the world into chaos. And that's definitely like an episode 5 thing.
Did you have a split second? So the amazing, what's his name? Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore.
Oh, yeah. I forgot what his real name is, but yeah.
The moment where he looks like this kind of fascist Tucker Carlson, right, Alex Jones type, is actually a Skrull. I had a split second. I was like, could we make our neo-fascists? Could they be aliens and bad ones? Could we just have
that really be the case?
Like you can have them. Yeah.
Wouldn't hate it.
I'd be okay with it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the frogs turning people gay, but secretly they were the frogs.
They were Skrulls all along. I mean, it goes all the way back to Fantastic Four 2-4, where the Skrulls are the cows, right?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
So there was episode 2 of Secret Invasion. Todd, thank you very much for joining us. We super appreciate it. If people were to want to find you outside of on the podcast feed, where could they do that?
Yeah, well, go listen to the Super Pod Hero Cast, guys with beers talking about movies with capes. My stuff, you can find me on a bunch of the socials. The handle's pretty much TMP in SYR, Twitter, Instagram, TMP and SYR.com. Yeah, find me out there.
Great. So thanks a lot for listening to this episode. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure to do so. We've got a brand new episode coming up to you this Sunday. This month, we are covering all films written and or directed by women. And this coming Sunday, we've got a really great episode for you. We're covering the film Obvious Child, which stars Jenny Slate.
Oh.
So we're really excited about that. No, I'm sorry. We're not covering that. We're actually covering In a World, written and directed and starring Lake Bell.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm so like a head because we literally just recorded that episode. So I'm like,
but in the future, you might hear that otherwise.
When does anything happen?
The following week will be Obvious Child, but this coming Sunday is In a World, starring, written, and directed by Lake Bell.
Yeah.
You can watch that movie right on Freevee or on Plex TV for free with ads. I found it easily through Amazon Prime, and it just directed me right to Freevee. It was super easy to watch. So if you're the type of person that watches movies before we review them, that's where you can go. If not, we'll see you on Sunday, and we'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Todd, thanks a lot again
Yeah,
for
thanks,
joining
man.
us.
Thank you,
We
my
super
friends.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see you all next time.
Woo!